Why is he so closed off and resistant to change? If you've ever asked your husband to be kinder, to listen, to pay attention, to show empathy, and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall, you're not imagining it. I'm going to explain why change feels like threatening to a husband, a partner with narcissistic traits, and why direct appeals for empathy usually backfire. I'm Dr. Don Russell, and at Russell Healing Institute, we support and empower women in very difficult marriages to heal and to heal the marriage. Be aware that the information I share here is information. It's not a diagnosis, and is for educational purposes, because I am a psychotherapist, but I'm not your psychotherapist. Also, if you're in a relationship where there is physical violence, I urge you to seek local support and do what you need to do for your own safety and the safety of others under your care. Let's talk about narcissistic behaviors rather than diagnoses, first of all. So the traits are, he needs to be right. It's my way or the highway. It's rigid thinking. Difficulty or resistance in taking responsibility, taking ownership for his choices, his words, his behaviors, and he seems to rely heavily on controlling the world around him. Control looks strong, but it's actually armor covering a fragile self-esteem. For many husbands that have these patterns, the control is not a preference, it is survival. From his perception, it is a matter of survival. Because somewhere along the way, he learned, if I'm not in control, I could be humiliated, I could be in danger, I could be shamed. So for him, again, in his perception, control is safety. Admitting fault signifies danger, and letting your perspective stand besides his, it represents a threat to his, again, fragile ego. Empathy, for all of us, empathy asks us to step outside our own armor, our own walls. And for someone with brittle self-esteem or low self-esteem, empathy feels too dangerous. It feels like exposure. It feels like coming out from behind the wall, and that leaves a person vulnerable. So getting feedback, right? You giving him feedback is perceived as an attack on his identity. His own recognition and feeling his feelings feels overwhelming and confusing. And you sharing your perspective feels to him like he's being erased. Instead of him softening, he doubles down with the armor. Think of it, right? When you say, hey, can you be more empathetic? Can you understand? Can you listen to me? It actually is a trigger for him. He's perceiving that you're telling him that he's broken. And that's going to trigger shame inside him, which triggers defensiveness and blame and denial and gaslighting, right? That's what you're getting, right? And his control reflex, trying to gain control of the situation. What it looks like is it's him reaching out in what essentially is a fight response to argue, to shut you down, to twist your words, to gaslight you. All of that stuff that you find so dang frustrating. See, the thing is, your request wasn't wrong. Your request was very reasonable. You're asking for a good marriage. But his internal system treats it like a fire alarm. So, what's going on? What's going on? See, underneath him, in his interior, in his insides, most likely there's an attachment story, or really specifically an attachment wound. Maybe in his home growing up, in his background, love felt conditional and not measuring up, meant humiliation. Vulnerability and openness emotionally meant danger. So when you ask for intimacy in the marriage, just emotional intimacy, when you ask for reciprocity or mutuality, when you go, look at me, see me, consider me, think of me, be considerate, his alarm system says, whoa, if I'm vulnerable, I'm liable to be shamed or abandoned. Make no mistake, that's not about you. It's about him and his backstory. The things that women try, and it may be helpful, although they're going to be extremely difficult in a marriage like this. These things include setting boundaries, which is hard to do. That requires internal work and internal safety on your part to be able to do that. Being very specific about what you're asking for is also helpful to avoid his overwhelm. Framing an ask as an experiment. Hey, can we try something for 2 weeks or a week or 2 days maybe? And speaking in terms of natural consequences and following through gently, not with hostility, not with anger and resentment. What you need to do in your marriage to a man that has narcissistic traits is you need to understand that what you're asking for is appropriate and fine and healthy, but the only way it's going to happen is a slow process of nurturing. See, if he ever chooses to grow, it means he needs to learn to tolerate that uncomfortable feeling of shame. He needs to build emotional language, an emotional vocabulary. Likely he never learned. He needs to learn perspective taking, the ability to stand back from himself and see the whole situation. For example, you're bringing him feedback today, and the problem is that he will perceive that as a threat, an attack. Having perspective would allow him to say, okay, she's giving me feedback and this feels uncomfortable right now, but I remember that we've been good the last 6 days and 23 hours of our last week, right? That's perspective taking. It will also require him to let go of control as his chosen safety net. That's deep work, and you can't nag it out of him, you can't cajole it out of him, you can't threaten him to make this happen. It's internal work for him. You can absolutely facilitate it, though. The message I want you to hear in this video is that people with narcissistic traits do change. They change when the relational environment is safe enough to allow them to change. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know how this message lands on you. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your perspective is. Let me know how you have found the slow changing process of a husband with narcissist traits. Let me know what you need, what you feel you need to do better in surviving or flourishing in your marriage with a narcissist husband.